I look at the trends for everything else. I look at the trends with respect. If the revenue line and the gross profit line are not parallel, they're spreading apart.
Please welcome America's service sales coach, Joe Crisara.
Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast, the show that helps home service professionals master high-value sales, build stronger client relationships, and grow their business like never before. Join industry experts as they share real strategies that drive results. If you're ready to level up your service game, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
It's the Service MVP Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special bonus episode of the Home Service MVP Podcast. And I'm Joe Crisara. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Ruth King, who is with Hoot and Profit, which will build your financial muscles and make financials fun. I've known Ruth for many, many years. Ruth, thank you so much for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Joe. I really appreciate it. I'm honored.
Well, I am too. I'm honored to be with you again. And I always feel like it's a safe place when I'm with Ruth King. And I think a lot of people, the thousands of people who have been lucky enough to work with you, I'm sure they feel the same way. And everybody I talk to said I really get a lot from everything that Ruth shares. Ruth, why don't you start by giving us a little bit about your background and how you got started in the service industry and what led you to your current leadership role at Hoot and Profit?
Okay, so I started out as a chemical engineer, and I have a bachelor's and master's in chemical engineering and an MBA in finance. So I am well educated. And when I was in grad school getting my MBA, I met a woman who was working with Service America at the time, and they needed some help. So my background has always been finance. It's always been numbers and that type of thing. So I went to Service America back in 1987. And started working with the franchisees at that point on the financial side of their companies. And I really found a niche. I absolutely found a niche there. So I started with them. I was there for about 18 months and we parted ways and I went out on my own. And I've been just working on the operational side and the financial side and helping contractors truly understand what a P&L and a balance sheet is and how to make sense of the numbers. Then, the HVAC got me into the plumbing, which got me into the electrical, which got me into the generators, because it's really all the same thing. Mm-hmm. Everybody in our home service industry makes money, generates revenue through billable hours. If we don't have a billable hour, there's no service. If we don't have a billable hour, there's no install. If we don't have a billable hour, there's no new construction. So I look at everything that we do as we take, okay, can we maximize our billable hours? How much overhead do we have to add to it? And what comes on the bottom line from net profit? So all of it is really focused on that. And once you understand that, it makes life really easy with respect to, okay, how much do I want to earn? Bottom line, what's my net profit per hour? And then you work backwards to figure out what revenue needs to be from that perspective. And I was doing all the things that we made into websites and AI and all that sort of stuff by hand until about 7 years ago. And the Excel spreadsheets and graphs and all that sort of fun stuff. And then I said, I'm tired of doing it by hand. The technology at that point was good enough. And we built the website. I taught AI how to read a financial statement, a small business financial statement, not the Fortune 500 neat, pristine, audited statements. Took about a year. And we started Financially Fit Business. And so that is literally upload your financial statements. If you're on QuickBooks Online, you just put in the date range, instantly is analyzed by AI, and the graphs and trends come out of it that you can really see where your business is going from a cash flow perspective, a profitability perspective, productivity, debt, inventory, receivables, basically everything I was doing by hand. And so it was interesting because I had a conversation with my daughter, and who is exactly the opposite of me. She is not numbers driven. She is very creative. She's the lighting, the sound director, the creative from that perspective. And I said to her, I want to make financials fun. And she goes, you can't. This is my typical daughter.
She's got a good head on her shoulders. It sounds like
She's got a very good head on her shoulders. And I said, what?
she's accurate in that. I think even when even when you say you can make it fun, I'm like, I dare you. It's
Yeah,
like,
that's basically what she said is without saying it, I
uh,
dare you. She said, you can't. And so she gave her mother this big challenge. And, so we started putting together all the things that make it really easy to understand because, think about it. When, if you're an HVAC contractor, if you're an electrical contractor, if you're a generator contractor, you have to read a wiring diagram. What happened the first time, or in a plumbing, if you're going to plumb a house, you've got to read the specs. And it's like, first time you looked at it, it was like, I don't know what to do, but you learned it. And I promise you that's harder than learning numbers.
it is.
And
I do recall we've been at this for a few decades, and I do remember even in the somewhere about in the mid '90s, I saw something on. They tried to we got to make this easy for contractors to understand, and they did like the lemonade stand, and the
yeah,
Carrier did something on that, and
it was
Honeywell.
a candy game. Yeah.
Everybody had different stuff on it, but it all got down to when you got in there, you're like, oh my God, this is like I don't even want to. It made me hate lemonade. It was so it made my stomach hurt, and I had, and, through listening to you, you're one of the people that was influential in me being able to break down financials in a super simple way. So today when I give them the short course on it, like here's your total sales, here's how much it costs to do the work, here's how much you buy your stuff equipment for, and then that's your gross profit right here. And there's all everything else is just overhead. How do I figure out the overhead? It's just anything that's not those things. And so I think you got to try to explain it like it's to a 5-year-old. But I'm really intrigued about the solution. Tell us about some of in today's world, although there is a lot of AI solutions and now spreadsheets are kind of like, you used to have to make them all and do all the formulas yourself. Now
Yeah, not anymore.
yeah, I can do it
Yeah.
all for you now. But tell us, what's the biggest challenge facing contractors today with all this information? I mean, that's also can be a double-edged sword too. Can it, Ruth? Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Number one, who can you trust?
Hmm.
Number two, how much is too much? And what do you have to pay attention to? All right. Those are the three biggies. And from my perspective, the most important thing to pay attention to is billable hours. Because without billable hours, you have no revenue and you have no profit. All right. And then we make it simple from there. And once you understand that, it's funny, people have sat in my classes when I teach the billable hours. I do a class called Building Profit and Wealth. And they sit back there and goes, nobody else teaches it this way. I said, they're wrong. And I can prove it. If you start with billable hours, you got to know what comes to the bottom line. Percentages don't matter. I mean, I can show you two contractors with a 10% net, one who was earning $50 net profit per hour and one who was earning 100. Which would you rather be? I mean, 100, I hope.
Yeah,
So, when you make it that simple, when it's all just math and subtraction, which we can do with our cell phones these days,
yeah.
the light bulb kind of goes on. So, that type of thing is important. So from my perspective, knowing your numbers is really what's going to keep you alive as a business owners.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're going to get hit between the eyes with a 2x4 at some point in time and go, what that, hell happened. Excuse me.
Well, I want everybody to come to the next Total Immersion, the life-changing event where you increase your sales and your personal growth. What should we do? If you could give me an example of how you can make, I agree with you. The billable hours is where it's at. Like, how many hours are we selling versus how much are we just paying for without getting any return on investment for those
Right.
billable? Because there's plenty of hours. Just the
That's
billable
right.
ones are what pay for everything, right? And I think that's what
Right.
people misunderstand. They don't realize that. I'm charging. I always say there's the uninformed contractor who's like, tell me what's your billable hour? I ask, and they go, oh, I have to figure it out, but we're probably like 150. I said, oh,
Oh
that's
my
okay.
gosh.
And I said, that's okay. You're just in the uninformed category. But then I had to give them a short class. Like, you do realize for every hour, the 150 is probably right for the time you're actually doing the work. But think about how much work when you're not getting billable hours done. You have to figure that time into this time, and that's 3/4 of an hour you're putting out there, 1 hour. It's got to figure the travel time, the paperwork time, the talk time, the pricing time, and then stocking your truck and getting gas and having lunch and vacations. That's all got to be figured into that hour. As you realize that, and he's like, I never thought that. And I was like, yeah, you should see Ruth King. She'll tell you more about it. Ruth,
Yeah,
how
I
can you
mean, they
possibly?
don't think about vacation, they don't think about holidays, they don't think about
No,
meeting
no.
time and what the
How
best
do you
thing.
possibly make this fun? That's what I want to get down to the fun part.
Okay, you want to get down to the fun part. All
How do
right.
you make this fun, Ruth? That doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of fun. So far, it sounds like pretty traditional stuff you're teaching me. But tell me about the fun part for the younger people or newer
Yeah.
contractors, maybe the older ones who want to get into the fun finally when they weren't having very much of it.
Yeah. So then once we got through the you can't, the thing is, people are subscribing to the financially fit software. It's very, very, very inexpensive to do that. And they were getting really excited and then they were falling off. And so I said, back to my daughter, who's a millennial. I said, what do you do? She goes, gamify it, make it a game. And so we made financials a game and called it Hoot and Profit.
Mm,
So you have an owl, which you name, and you get your first owlet and you feed your owlet pellets
mm,
based on looking at your financial statements online every day, which you should be doing anyway,
mm-hmm,
answering a fun question about financials, really, really make it easy as we go through there. Tracking your billable hours or your revenue generating hours in industries that are not ours, putting together a weekly cash flow budget and entering your financial statements once a month.
mm-hmm.
And then there's other prizes along the way. So we're trying to build the muscle so that if everybody starts doing that every day, now the question always comes, well, why should I look at my financial statements online? Well, that is the first line of defense for making sure somebody's not stealing from you. Number two, and the bad guys can steal from you too, a lot. I had a client who delegated the looking at looking at your financials, your checking accounts and your operating accounts online to his bookkeeper. And one day they had those little deposits, the 6 cents and the 22 cents or whatever they are, that come to make sure that the account is valid if you're setting up a new account or something like that. And he said, the owner's just setting up a new account. Well, bank calls. Did you authorize two $25,000 withdrawals? No, it was the bad guys trying to see whether that account was valid. You have to look at your bank statements every day online.
Mm.
Keep the bad guys out, keep the embezzlers
Isn't
out.
it funny how the bank statement is where the truth is at, but that's the thing nobody looks at, and that's the thing that definitely needs to, because sometimes we just look at our QuickBooks or we just look at our
No, 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 no.
financials.
You got to look at.
Like looking. I learned that when I went through my only divorce in my life. I'm like, I got to get into this, and because I was like, I'll let my wife do it, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm doing it on my own. I'm like, I got to dumb this down for myself, and I'm like, wait a second, how much money do I actually have? And I had to say, so the bank, I agree, the bank statement thing is a great little truth that I think a lot of people miss on that part of it there. But it sounds
Yeah.
like really intriguing. It sounds like honestly, it answers a lot of questions for people like clients of mine who I would recommend. Number one, the exercise of finding the effective billable hour that you would need to charge based on the current performance that you're having, or the change of that hour, because the billable hour isn't just a static thing, is it, Ruth? It's not just something that we found it, now you got it, isn't it? How often could that billable hour rate change on a contractor over the course of time?
Well, yeah, what I do with billable hours is, you're going to have slower times and busier times with respect to billable hours. I always do payroll hours versus actual billable hours. And you're going to get an average over a year. And that's generally what I do. The only time I change it is if you have hired 22 new people, and I'm exaggerating, or you lose a couple of people, because then what happens is you might have the work, but you don't have the people to do the work.
Hmm.
And that's the bad part about it. But if you get a lot of people and you have a lot of work and your overhead cost per hour goes down, so that your net profit per hour can go up in those cases. But as a general rule, if your company's fairly stable and it's growing, 5 to 10% a year, doing it once a year is just fine.
Mm-hmm. Now tell
So
me, will the Hoot and Profit solution help the contractor find that billable hourly rate they should be charging? Is that something
no, I'm leaving that to you. You can do that.
that's perfectly fine? I would love to do that job. But once we have it, now we're going to see how effectively you're applying it. Tell us what is the objective of this app, so that what's the ultimate benefit? Although it is fun to do it, what is, and using the pellets and all that stuff and the daily activities to checking your bank statement and all that kind of thing. So you get rewards for doing all the things you're
Yeah,
supposed
you
to do.
get pellets to feed your
You
outlet.
get rewards for doing like little
Yeah,
gamifying. I think that's great.
yeah.
Tell us, what's the objective that you hope that service professionals today receive from this activity?
So every month you upload your P&Ls and balance sheets and you look at the financial trends of your company.
Mm,
So from that perspective, what I hope is that you start looking at the trends so that you can spot minor profitability issues, minor productivity issues, whatever issues with respect to collections or inventory buildup or any of those types of things, and take care of them before they hit you between the eyes with a 2x4. It's not a pricing template. That's what I'm saying. I'm leaving the pricing to you. You
yeah,
just
yeah,
price
yeah.
them.
I get that. Yeah, it's not that part
Yeah.
of it, but
Yeah.
it's like is it effective? It's kind of
Yes.
like the scoreboard to see.
Yes.
Okay, this guy's told you the pricing. Let's see if it's making any. Is this creating the right cash flow, creating the right gross
Exactly.
profit, and things like that? You talked before about knowing the KPI, because there's so many people. I think we've been over KPI'd, I'd say.
Yes.
It's like the data cube and so many solutions that are out there that will give you. I love it because it's like, oh, there's a leaderboard at this company. They got like 8 flat screen TVs, and when I walk in, and I'm like, let me see. Then I got, let me just double check, and then it takes a while for me to process it because there's so much data. You said before that this will help you kind of achieve sort of the KPIs that are the most important. Could you go just review that one more time so people can understand what you think is the most important thing to have your thumb on the pulse of your company there?
The most important KPI is net profit per hour for service businesses. All
Mm,
right. It gets tracked in the software. So you can see whether it's going up and going down, because if your KPI, if your net profit per hour is correct, everything else falls north of that. Now, can you have specific KPIs for service techs with respect to average service ticket and revenue and all that sort of fun stuff? Yeah, sure. But it all falls down to the bottom line. The KPI that I track is net profit per hour. I look at the trends for everything else. I look at the trends with respect to profitability. So I'll give you an example of that one, which is really can be very subtle. So when we trend and we produce the graphs so that you don't have to look at numbers, we just look at graphs, and so you can see what's going on. If the revenue line and the gross profit line are not parallel, they're spreading apart. All
mm,
right. That means either your productivity is going down, the supplier has increased your costs, and you haven't increased your costs to your customer, or the
mm.
combination of both. All right. So it gets to be very subtle. There's a really funny story with that. So I look at this with my clients every month, and we noticed that it was spreading. And so the owner went back, and sure enough, one of his suppliers had raised his prices, major supplier, and didn't tell him. Didn't send a letter, didn't do anything. So he calls him on the phone, and he says, I'm not paying this. You didn't tell me about it. And I said, how well did that work out for you?
Not too good.
Not too good. So,
Yeah.
we can look at those things and we can make decisions as to what's going on with the business based on what we're seeing. If we're seeing gross margin dropping, let's find out why. All right. Is it a productivity issue? Is it a job that was supposed to take 16 hours took 22? There's so many things you can go for and dig into once you see where the trends are, so that you can turn them going in the right direction. You
Mm.
don't have to look at numbers anymore. You just look at graphs.
you're going to get the trend and get the kind of like the thing that's giving you like it's something like a dashboard, like red light, yellow, green, almost like that kind of a thing where you're kind of getting, am I in a good place right now, or am I in a dangerous place, or am I in a hazardous place? Would that be fair to say that this can help you with?
They'll be able to see it all by themselves. It's not a red, green, yellow type thing. But if the graph's going in the wrong direction, it's impossible to miss it.
You can't miss it. And you won't get any
Yeah.
pellet. You might not get any pellets for your owl either. Your person. So owl may not get as many pellets if you got that
Yeah,
problem.
my outlet might starve.
We don't want to do that. Let's not starve the owl. That's a good one. You got to get a T-shirt. That could be on a
Yeah.
T-shirt. Don't starve the owl. Anyway, good stuff on that. Ruth, how do you overcome this part though? Here's the thing that gets me, and this is maybe something how many, do you ever take an inventory of how many thousands of contractors you've talked to or have been exposed to your training and teaching on this stuff?
No, I know that I do about 40. I have my profitability group stays at around 40. And I can't, thousands of talks over the years, and so probably thousands of contractors over the years. But the group itself has probably over the years been about 1,000.
Well, happen to know for sure it's well over hundreds of thousands of people who have seen what you've done and how
Yeah.
and all the articles you've written and things like that on these subjects. So you are somebody who's been, I would say, I would like to say millions, but I can't quite put my finger on
Yeah,
that.
I don't know.
But I
I don't
definitely
track
know
it.
it's in the tens of thousands of people who have seen and heard about you for sure. Because everybody I mentioned you to, they always who know who you are. So here's the question I have. This reason I bring that up is because there's a logical part to these numbers and there's an emotional part. I think your daughter is on to something there. I think I think the gaslighting that contractors or service owners do, knowing that there is a problem, but then ignoring the problem or wanting to take on this thing. Have you thought about that? I guess that's where the fun part of it can try to bridge that gap. But what do you say to people who are like, I know my books are a mess, or I know that I'm so far lost that I can't even begin. I wouldn't even do me any good because my financials are so bad that I couldn't even start taking on an app like this. How are you going to bridge that gap? Because that seems to me one of your biggest challenges. Would you agree with that, or what do you think on that?
If their books are a mess, then we have people who can clean them up. All right. So if they are truly wanting to understand what their numbers are telling them and from a standpoint of graphs, all the help in the world is out there. If they say they're such a mess, I don't know where to start, do they want to start? That's really the
That's the key
question.
thing. I guess that's where I'm getting at is how do you get somebody who like they feel so, that's why the gaslighting starts. Like, yeah, I'm just doing okay. We're doing okay. They've normalized, dysfunction in a way, right? How do you find, what kind of is it more empathy or is it more, Jill Sargent? What comes out in Ruth King that wakes people up and says, hey, let's knock off the BS and get
Well,
it together
I,
here. What is your
yeah,
approach that does that? Tell us what you do. More of a feather, or is it more of the hammer? What are you using there to get?
depends upon the personality style of the contractor I'm working with. Sometimes I can use a hammer, sometimes I have to do the nudging and the feather. It
Mm-hmm.
is totally their personality style. But in either case, they have to want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It doesn't matter. I mean, you've heard everybody's heard you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. If they don't want to do this, nobody can help them. You can't help them. I can't help them. And if they want to wallow in their sorrow, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, I'm finally ready. XYZ happened. Sometimes you just have to be hit between the eyes with a 2x4, and that wakes you up and gets you ready. Sometimes you just live in oblivion for the entire, your entire life, and that's fine. The toughest things that I've ever had to do is tell an owner of a business who's been working his butt off for 30, 35 years and wants to retire, he has nothing to retire on because they never did the things necessary, i.e. build maintenance, to have the business worth something. That's a tough conversation.
It really is. It really is. That's one of the hardest things, which is that, and that's what it hurts, because sometimes you see some really good people who are involved in a dysfunctional loop that don't get that. I don't want to do too much about it, but I think I'd like those people to know that there is help, and
When
that
they're ready.
and nobody should feel as if a person like you or me, like, I know that whatever it would take, we'd go in and talk to them or have that conversation. And I've had so many. I'd say for every hour that I've billed, there's been thousands of hours I haven't billed,
Yeah, you and me both.
and just try to help people, to give them hope in that regard. I just want people to know that there is hope out there, and I think that you've always been, like, to me, an easy path. And you are very empathetic, I feel, too, but you also have empathy with the efficiency of let's get moving on the project, because empathy can only last so long before we start moving and taking action on these
Yeah.
things.
If you're not willing to take action, I'm not working with you.
That's a good way of putting it.
Period.
That's the same way there. So, Ruth, let me got some interesting other questions here. So, when it comes to the strategies that I've been using in your business, how do you balance? That's a good word. How do you balance your own efficiency with delivering the great service experience that you want to do? Because service, obviously, is something you can't put a meter on it. It doesn't always we don't have a service meter that we could just charge before. It never works when you do it that way. But
Yeah.
how do you balance the amount of service you give versus the amount of efficiency that you provide your clients?
So I keep my contractor base, my profitability group, at around 40. So I know I can work with them individually, one-on-one, get them where they need to be. So that one is by itself. So I know there's limits. There's like a box around profitability group. And when, like last year, 5 contractors sold, I replaced them with 5 contractors. So that's how I get the group, and it stays pretty consistent.
So
And
you keep it where you can it's manageable.
it's manageable.
That's something where it's unmanageable. Yeah.
Yeah. And then from a perspective of, I mean, I love to write. I've written since I've been in 7th grade. And I write the contractor sense emails, I do the podcasts and things like that. And that's fun for me. Yeah, I guess it's marketing, but it's also a lot of fun. And we get some really good conversations like we're having right now. And people learn from that. I can't tell you how many people have said, I've listened to your podcast for the past 5 years and I'm now ready.
Nice.
Sometimes it just takes time.
It does. I get the same thing. It's like, yeah, I've been watching it for like 15 years, so now it's
It's
time to
time.
take action. It's a little great. I'm glad we helped you there. So, Ruth, what keeps you motivated at this time of your life to keep working in the service industry? What's the thing that really matters to you, that and the reason that you wake up every morning and spring out of bed, eager to help other people?
When the light bulb goes off.
If that is true.
Yeah, it is true. I shouldn't say it. When the light bulb goes on and they finally get their financial statements done. I mean, I get a lot of pleasure, of helping contractors get where they want to go. And the deal is you sell, you're out of here. You're out of the group type thing. And I still maintain the relationships with all of them. And a lot of them have sold for a lot of money over the years. And many have said, you got me where I wanted to go. And that gives me a great deal of satisfaction to be able to do that. And I guess that's what keeps me up in the morning, gets me waking up, jumping, ready to go, and everything else like that.
Wow.
And now that we have the Hoot and Profit app and financially fit business, that's really exciting because it's not dependent upon me. I can take what I have done for years and give it to the world. That's the really exciting part, that it's not dependent upon me anymore. I've taught AI as much as I can teach AI. And, I jokingly say I could become superfluous, but I don't think that's ever going to happen.
No. So how does is it attainable financially? How much is it a solution that is something people can afford? Tell us about that part of it.
Yeah, financially fit business is software. It's $299 to get started. You can put up to 2 years worth of data in there. We teach you what all the graphs mean and everything else like that. And then it's $89 a month or $249 a month, depending upon whether you want to do it all yourself or you want a pair of human eyes looking at it every month
Nice.
with you.
You have some assistance on it too. You have
Oh yeah, definitely.
some coaching and stuff on that too. You have it.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, here's some imagination questions. When we wrap this up, I'm going to give you a couple of questions to just do some fun stuff to use your
Okay.
imagination. Nothing to do with financials. Oh, it could be financial. Um, what trends do you think are shaping the future of the service industry based on everything you see right now? And how are you preparing for those trends?
I think that a lot of the back office, the stuff that is repeatable day-to-day things that is very mundane and repetitive tasks are going to AI. I
Hmm.
do not think in the near future raising, implementation and installing equipment, replacing a motor, replacing a contactor, capacitor, installing a generator can be done by AI or robots yet. Now, 20 years from now, maybe. But for the foreseeable future, I see us, i.e. the service industry, being very proactive on the, touching the customer side and having the back office of it starting to get really automated so that you can focus on doing the work with customers. That's what I see happening in the next couple of years.
What would you say? If you were going to? There's one. Let's go back a little bit now. Let's just look in the future. Now we're going to look at the past. If you go back and talk to a younger Ruth King, what advice would you give your younger self starting out in this industry?
Ooh, don't be afraid. I mean, when I was 30, I didn't have the confidence I've got now. I also didn't have the experience I had now either. Um, I jokingly say I'd like to be 30 years old again, knowing what I know now. That would be phenomenal. It really and truly would. I mean, at 30, I didn't know why I was put on this earth. It was like I got into Service America. I really found a niche that I really, really liked. But it wasn't clear to me until I was in my 40s that my role in the world was financial, teaching people financials and making it interesting and making it fun and making it so they can achieve their goals and giving them the tools and processes to do it. And that has really shaped everything I've done since I've been, late 40s, early 50s. And, had I found that earlier, maybe had I found it in my 20s rather than my 40s, I would have done a little bit, some different things, but we also didn't have the technology back then either. I went to college with a slide rule. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. I'm dating myself tremendously, but
Hmm.
we didn't even, I mean, we didn't have calculators until I was in grad school, basically. So again, remember where I was,
Hmm. Hmm.
if we had the technology today, and I was 25, 30 years old, Katie bar the door, watch out.
Yeah, I do remember those days. I remember when the cash register used to key in the actual numbers as opposed to scanning stuff.
Yeah.
Way before that. Ruth, where can listeners and people who are on listening to this podcast connect with you or learn more about working or partnering with you at Hoot and Profit?
So if you go to hootandprofit.com, you can find out about the app there. It's free. If you want to get in touch with me, I give everybody my cell phone number, which is 678-296-4123. I'm happy to answer a quick question. I may say, let's schedule, a quick phone call to see whether I can help. And I'm happy to do what I can to help the industry and get them better and making the profits they want to make and getting the tools and processes to make that happen.
What can I do to help you? Is there anything that I can do for the service MVP teams, the people, the clients of service MVP? How can I best get this? Go to Hoot and Profit and just sign up for a demo, or
Yeah,
sign up for it? Or
you can go to Hoot and Profit if you want the app. If you want the software, it's www.financiallyfit.business. So
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to give demos and show you what it really looks like. I'm happy to help all of your clients if I can with the software or something else,
Mhm.
but's not the right word. That's where it's headed. It's really headed into the AI world and headed into the agent world. And yes, the human is always going to look it over to make you feel comfortable, but the calculation of a current ratio or the calculation of trailing numbers is all going to be, well, it is that we've done it, AI driven. There's no sense in this anymore.
Make it definitely it's way easier than it ever has been. So that was another great conversation with Ruth King. Ruth, I really appreciate having you on the show. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. And hopefully I helped your audience.
You did. I'm very sure you did that. And thank you, everyone else who's watching us. And thank you for sticking with us until the very end. If you've gained value from today's episode, we'd love for you to leave a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you know someone in the service industry or anyone who's looking to scale their career or their business, send this episode their way. Take away one key insight from today and put it into action and let us know how it benefited you. We'd love to hear about your progress. Thanks again, and we'll see everybody here on the next episode of the Home Service MVP Podcast. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for listening and watching the Service MVP Podcast. I want to give you a copy of my free book. Just click on the link below in the description, and one will be sent to you from me personally. Thank you so much for listening.